All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down one of the most solid, most baffling military encounters with an unknown object that's ever happened. I'm talking about the 2004 Nimitz incident. This is the case that really blew the doors off the whole conversation around what we now call UAPs, or unidentified aerial phenomena. Because it wasn't just a story. It was backed up by some of the best pilots and the most advanced technology on the planet.
And look, we're not even going to start with some dramatic, spooky eyewitness account. We're starting with the cold, hard, official assessment. Just try to put yourself in the pilot's seat for a second. You see something flying out there that completely defies physics. It has no wings, no tail, no engine smoke, nothing to explain how it's staying in the air. Well, that's exactly what the US Navy ran into. So just how impossible are we talking here? Well, when the experts went back and crunched the numbers from the sensor data, they figured out that this thing was pulling at an absolute minimum over 40 Gs. That is 40 times the force of gravity. And to really wrap your head around what that means, you've got to see how it stacks up against our very best stuff.
Take our most advanced fighter, the F-35. It's built to handle about 9 Gs. Any more than that, and the pilot could black out, and the jet itself could literally be torn to pieces by the stress. So this object, it was operating in a way that is just, frankly, completely outside of anything we know how to build. It's not even in the same league.
Okay, so keeping that mind-bending performance in mind, let's hit rewind. Where and when did all this start? We're going back to November 2004, in a military training zone just off the coast of California. And this wasn't just any ship out there. It involved one of the most powerful naval forces in the world. For a few days, the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was out there doing its thing, routine training exercises before deployment. But then, their super advanced radar system started lighting up with something weird. And these weren't just fuzzy blips on the screen. They were being tracked and classified as AAVs, or anomalous aerial vehicles.
The ship that first got a solid, repeatable lock on these things was the USS Princeton, a guided missile cruiser. And you have to understand, the detection wasn't coming from some old-school spinning radar dish. It came from a very specific and unbelievably powerful piece of military hardware.
The Princeton is built around the AN/SPY radar system, which is the heart of the whole Aegis combat system. This is one of the most sophisticated naval radars ever designed. Its job is to track hundreds of targets at once, from missiles skimming the waves to warheads coming down from space. The point is, this system doesn't get confused by weather balloons or flocks of birds.
So you've got the crew of the Princeton watching these contacts for days, doing impossible things like dropping from 60,000 feet, basically the edge of space, down to just above the ocean in a couple of seconds. Then, on November 14th, things escalate. First, a pilot on a totally different mission sees this massive, strange disturbance in the water, like the ocean was boiling. By that afternoon, it was time to send in the fighters to get a closer look.
And the guys they sent were Commander David Fravor and his wingman, flying FA-18 Super Hornets. These aren't just your average pilots, okay? These are elite naval aviators, the best of the best, flying one of the most capable aircraft on Earth. And this is what they found. Commander Fravor's description has become famous. He saw this smooth, white, oblong object. No wings, no engines, no exhaust plumes, just zipping around erratically over that same patch of churning water. He said it looked like a giant Tic Tac. It was like nothing he'd ever seen or trained for in his entire career.
Now, having two expert pilots see something with their own eyes is one thing. That's powerful. But what happened next, well, that's what turns this from a compelling story into a landmark case. Because the next guys they sent up weren't just going to look at it, they were going to record it.
See, Fravor's jet just didn't happen to have its recording system set up for this kind of unexpected event. It's just not something they normally did. But after he landed and told everyone what he saw, they launched another jet. And this time, the crew knew exactly what they were looking for, and more importantly, they were ready to hit record.
But even for them, this thing was tricky. The plane's main radar couldn't get a solid lock. The object just wasn't behaving like a normal aircraft, so the radar couldn't track it consistently. So they had to pivot. They switched over to a totally different system, one that sees the world in heat, not in radio waves.
And this is what they got. This is a still from that now famous FLIR 1 video. Now, it's not a normal video camera, it's a thermal image from an incredibly advanced targeting pod. So what you're seeing here isn't a photograph, it's raw, unfiltered sensor data of the object itself.
The ATF-LIR pod is a multi-million-dollar piece of tech that gives pilots a huge advantage.
It can spot a target from dozens of miles away, whether it's day or night. The fact that this system was able to lock onto the UAP and record it means we have machine-verified, indisputable proof that this thing was there and was moving in unbelievable ways.
And that recording brings us right back to this incredible number. Because that infrared video, it captured the object making an instantaneous acceleration off to the left of the screen. And when analysts broke it down frame by frame, the physics confirmed those extreme g-forces. This wasn't just somebody's impression, this was physics, recorded by a machine.
So you've got multiple combat-proven pilots, the world's best radar, and infrared video of an object that defies physics. You'd think that would trigger a massive top-priority investigation, right? Well, what happened next is almost as weird as the encounter itself.
Yeah, this quote from the debrief pretty much says it all. When the pilots got back to the ship's intelligence center, they weren't met with serious questions. They were met with jokes, with ridicule. The professional stigma around UFOs was so strong that it kicked in immediately, even in the middle of a secure military operation. The official reporting process just fell apart. A standard mission report was filed over email, it went up the chain to fleet intelligence, they read it, and then it just vanished into thin air. No formal investigation, no high-level follow-up, all of that incredible data, the radar tapes, the full infrared video, it was probably just wiped as part of a routine data purge. The entire event was just buried.
For over a decade, the Nimitz Encounter was basically just a ghost story, a sea story that aviators would tell each other. But when the story and the video finally leaked to the public, it changed everything. It helped drag this topic out of the shadows of ridicule and into the serious world of national security.
In fact, you can draw a direct line from the Nimitz case to this really important shift in language. The move from UFO to UAP wasn't just for show. It was a conscious effort by people inside the government to get rid of all the pop culture baggage so that analysts and scientists could actually study the data without being laughed out of the room.
And this is exactly why intelligence analysts take the Nimitz case so seriously. When they rate these kinds of encounters, they look at two things: who saw it and how they saw it. Here, you have the highest possible source credibility, military pilots, combined with the highest possible observation method, multiple advanced sensors. It just doesn't get any better than this. It's a gold standard case. So if you take away one thing, it's this. The Nimitz Encounter is a cornerstone because it literally checks all the boxes. You've got multiple, highly trained witnesses. Their story is backed up by radar and infrared data, and all of that evidence points to an object with flight capabilities that we simply can't explain or replicate. The leak of this story basically forced the government to stop ignoring the issue and start treating it as a real national security concern.
And really, that leaves us with this pretty sobering question. This case proved, without a doubt, that objects with technology far beyond our own can fly right into our most sensitive military airspace whenever they want. We can see them, we can track them, but we have no idea what they are, who sent them, or what they want. And if your job is to defend that airspace, that's a problem you absolutely cannot afford to ignore any longer.